Alright everyone, welcome back to Talk About It, the podcast where we talk about any and everything in otaku culture. I'm your host, Shelby.
And your co-host, Lawrence.
Your reoccurring guest, Stephs from Cosplay.
And your awesome wig stylist, Sonic the Stylist.
Nice, glad you went with it. This episode, we are kind of going over our thoughts on making and buying cosplay, the pros and cons of each. So, I know before you had a question, I think it's to Sonic.
Oh, you're asking me a question?
Oh yeah, just on the topic of I think it really comes from the context of where we come from, because there is that, I guess, stigma of buying cosplay, and then there's there's some people see as when you make your cosplay like it's cool or stuff, but I think as a maker of cosplay, and you make wigs and you style wigs, right, and then you sell them too, right?
Yeah.
And something that I really liked you were vibing on was you're saying that sometimes people need to, you don't have to make everything on your own. Mm-hmm. So I really like that, and I agree. Yeah. Especially when it comes to cosplay, there's just so much in it. There's just armor making, there's sewing, there's boots, there's props, and there's wigs.
A lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff that one person has to do if you're going to do everything from scratch. And I feel like a lot of people kind of get into this scene wanting to make everything themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
it's really hard.
There's also nothing wrong with finding help. Yeah. That's the thing too.
So one thing we're doing right now is we're actually live on Instagram, and we have a question from Otaku Mage of Fairy Tale asking where we get our stuff to cosplay. So if we were going to go into the making side of it, where would you guys start?
I feel like it's kind of like a spectrum is the thing too, because it's you can make and buy costumes, but I feel like there's varying degrees of scratch that you could say that you made your cosplay, because I feel like a lot of people also fall into this middle ground of modifying bought things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah, so it's I make the majority of my costumes, and it's but it's I also buy and modify a lot of things, so it's things from scratch, I would go to Joann's to get fabric, or I would go to Fabrics R Us, which is in San Jose, or I go to fabric.com. But then if I'm modifying stuff, I usually go to local clothing stores or Amazon.
Yeah, I'm all about
So it depends on which part of the spectrum I feel if you're making or buying. Personally, and I also do. It also depends if you're doing mostly clothing based costumes as well, or if you're doing armor based. Because obviously if you're making an armor cosplay, you wouldn't go to Joann's to get fabric.
Well, the thing is, armor is kind of hard too, because there's no base armor to start with.
Yeah, it's very hard to buy. I mean, unless you buy the whole thing off of a cosplay commission site, Easy Cosplay or something like that. Then you have to make it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, just going back when I first started cosplay, I bought from my friend. I commissioned her, and when I commissioned her and I got my stuff, I actually thoroughly looked through the patterns and stuff, and that's how I learned how to sew myself. And just buying from your other specialists, I think you could learn from that too, because I do style wigs and I sell wigs, and I get a lot of questions what do I do, how do I style wigs? I help them out, and eventually they learn from me too, and they're grateful for that because they don't need me anymore. But that's cool though, because I they teach other people too. I have some friends in SoCal. He learned from me, and now he's teaching his friends how to do it. And that's really cool.
That's really important. It's
that's very
teaching
cool,
people how to make things, because it's because I taught myself how to sew by dissecting how actual clothes are made. So it's
reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering through retail and stuff. I'd look at clothes in my downtime and look at how pieces of fabric are constructed. I never really took any formal pattern making classes or anything like that, but I just kind of learned how to reverse engineer, and I taught myself. And then I teach you guys how to make things making pouches and stuff like that. And then there's also YouTube.
Yeah, it's just starting is the really hard part.
Okay. Yeah. But then so for me, I just answered the question. When I first started, a lot of you guys, I go to Goodwill and thrift things.
I feel that's a good way to start.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people at least when I started, I was in high school, so I didn't have a lot of money.
I feel that's definitely a good going back to the pro con aspect. I feel with modifying and stuff like that, it's more cheaper. Yeah. It's easier on your wallet, because I feel if you buy a fully made costume online, that can trend upwards towards like hundreds of dollars. But it's easier if you go to like Goodwill and buy a shirt for like $7
Yeah.
and get your mom to help you out to like modify some things.
On
Like that.
Instagram, Chocolate Kitty says that making your own cosplay lets you make a higher quality, but gives you better control over the prices.
Yeah.
Which is true, because I feel like some online cosplays can get very pricey.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
You could just make
a lot of it. I mean, like the quality on your costume is also very dependent, I feel, on your own personal knowledge of where you're working. It's because, like, for example, like back in the day when cosplay wasn't as popular and a lot of people were still, you know, making stuff, I feel like there's kind of like this, I don't know how to describe it, like fondly remembered mistake that a lot of people did where they use like the really like shiny satin material for making their costumes, right? Because it was like everyone just kind of used that because it was easy, or like a lot of people will trend towards like using like cheap broadcloth because it's available in a lot of different colors to make their costumes just because like the color was right.
Wait, I still use not.
But it's like I mean, people didn't really like know as much back then about like making costumes and stuff like that and like what materials to use, and there weren't like as many materials available. And I feel like now, because there's so much information that's shared and like it's just like a bigger hobby, so there's more materials
more
available.
like
Yeah, like I feel like there's more resources available so that like you have more opportunities to use higher quality goods in order to make a better costume. But a lot of that comes down to whether or not you know what you're doing with what you have.
But then also, okay, go ahead. You're gonna say something?
Well, no, I was just thinking on that note that it comes down to your skill.
Yeah.
And
Your skill.
if the hours and because if you just start out, like when I just started out, I would buy, you know, all this fabric and try and sew together something, but I would mess up, so I'd have to trash it all. Yeah. And that like piles up.
And that can get
with
really
the cost,
expensive.
yeah.
Yeah. Or
But-
if you
that was me too when I first started.
But then, like, I feel like everyone that starts has to go through that learning curve. So, like, there's
if you decide to make is the thing, because the thing is that like if you're like a broke college student that doesn't have time to make things, but you still want to partake like in cosplaying in the community, that's why buying is such a great option, because like, and now in this day and age we have sites like Easy Cosplay and stuff like that, and like Amazon sells costumes now where you don't really have to like gamble on eBay to like import something from like China.
Yeah, and then doesn't it
And then it never shows up. Yeah.
It never shows up.
And I think that's like nice that we have this alternative now that like now more than ever the community is more accessible for everyone. I think that's really nice.
I think having the option of buying stuff and making stuff is the best. You know, you gotta find that sweet spot in which you're like, okay, I only have this much funds and I only have this much time.
Yeah.
So I can't make everything, but I can't buy everything too. So it's like having that option is the cool part. So I think like starting off with like Easy Cosplay, having like for example, I bought my Kirito sword art cosplay. Even then I modded the armor shoulder pad because the shoulder pad that came with it was just some silver piece of plastic that didn't look like armor at all. So I did that. So I think having the option of buying is cool. And then also like I guess making it on top of that is like just having both of them is like I think that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. So I might butcher this name, but Rain Kugami asked, so would buying a base and altering it be considered buying or making?
That's a hard question, I feel, because it kind of depends on like to what extent are you altering it. Some people will buy things to take them apart to use it as like a pattern, and then they're like upcycling the material. But like I know that some people will buy things and cover it with another material and like re-sew over it.
And some people buy to resize it to their fitting.
Yeah. So a lot of it kind of depends, like, because it's like to what extent. I think it's just kind of dependent on the person who makes it. And I feel like it kind of falls into like a neither category, because it's like, I mean, you bought it, but you did modify it, because it's like there's a difference between like buying something off the rack and just wearing it, and then like actually, you know, like tailoring it to your body.
Yeah, putting in
and
the
stuff
time
like that.
and skill.
I think it's like I think this person's coming from the context of like if you're going to enter into a competition, because
Competitions, I feel, are like a completely
feel
different
like-
topic as well.
I wouldn't enter that, even because if I bought something and I altered it, I still wouldn't enter that into a competition.
but
That's
I would
Yeah,
I would
I would
agree. I would
agree.
be on the same boat.
I think it's like that's debatable, but in the entry level, like a lot of people that are starting off cosplay that want to get into like competitions, I think it's perfectly fine to have bought and modded costume. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, like it depends.
And so there's different like tiers. So there's like
it's a very
the
gray
beginner.
area.
Yeah.
Well, the beginner's okay, but if you're going into like master level,
levels,
it's like you have to make everything from scratch, and that's coming from Anime Expo Masters Division. When I did it, they wanted me to make my boots, they wanted me to make my pants, they wanted me to make my own wig, they wanted everything made because you're talking a Master Division. But if you're talking beginners, I think it's okay because as a judge, and I've judged a few, I want this to be something that everyone can do. So buying something and then modding it is completely fine. But if you just completely bought things and you're competing with someone that bought and put in the effort to mod it, then I feel like the person that put the effort in to do that extra step I can't not value that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to note that like making and buying cosplays like as a whole within the community, I feel is like a separate topic from like making and buying within a competition, because I feel like competitions are like their own like universe. Yeah, because it's like the rules are completely different in that, like because like I feel like when we're discussing like pros and cons of buying and making cosplays, I feel like we're discussing it like within like the community, which is a place of like enjoyment, and it's like there's no rules in the community aside from like
but in
have fun and be nice, but competitions are like there's winning and losing, but like there's no winning and losing when you're cosplaying for fun. Like
there are smaller competitions that where you could enter for fun, and it doesn't matter if you made it or not.
It's like a walk-on, right?
It's just a walk-on.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You still win a little prize. And
that's cute.
And it's for like different prizes too, for like best performance, best in show, best craftsmanship.
I feel like at that level, it's more just showing your love and appreciation for that character.
I'm all about that. I love
rather
that
than like
that's the one I entered.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
That's great.
Yeah. I think a lot of the context when it comes down to like buying and making, I think because the way cosplay is portrayed in the media, like here's
that's a whole other
here's a cosplay and like cosplay melee. A lot of the cosplay scene that has been presented to the general public is competition, and everything in the show is about making. So I think that's why a lot of people push for making things, which is like I make things and I do like. The reason why I make things is sometimes the things that I can buy just don't do me justice. So that's one of the reasons like I make it. And like I'm sure that's one of the reasons why you style your own wigs too, right? Because sometimes the ones you see in the picture doesn't look like the one you get.
Look like it.
I've heard also like a lot of things about like cosplayers that decide to get into photography because no one's there to photograph them and stuff. Like people get into various things because like there's a demand but no supply, so they just supply it themselves.
Like
and I feel like
they fill and roll.
Yeah, and that's I feel cool. like what you were saying earlier with your Kirito costume, how you were unhappy with the little piece of armor that it came with, so you just made your own.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting, and I feel like it's situations like those that get people started on like
making
something that they find that they have like a talent for.
Yeah. Do you want to chime in on that?
No, I mean
we had an interesting
what else is people what are people saying?
I like the Jamie's question.
What are y'all saying?
Let me find it. So Awesome Jamie, a previous guest on this podcast, asked, is it taboo to make money from cosplays and buy all of your cosplays?
Wait.
What?
I think he's coming from the context.
I personally, a lot of it depends, because it's like, I feel like it's similar to the situations of like, when people buy their costumes, right? Let me see.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, it depends. Like, I don't think it's necessarily taboo to make money off of your cosplays if you bought them, because it depends on what you're doing with them. I feel like a lot of it has to do with intent, but it's like, it reminds me of situations where people buy costumes, take pictures with it, and then like sell the costume, because I feel like they don't really care about the character. They just kind of want to like make prints of the character to sell and then just like entirely profit.
Like milk it.
Which like I understand is like a good business perspective, but I feel like probably like one of the things that I think is the most ironclad important aspect of cosplay is like having like an affinity with the character, like having that love. I feel like that's one of the things that I hold very personally, is that like I feel like if you don't have like a personal bond with the character, like it doesn't necessarily like, I'm not saying that you have to like feel really like in love with the character that you're cosplaying, but I feel like if you're going to be like cosplaying, there should be like some sort of character that you love a lot that you cosplay, because I feel like that's the reason why a lot of people choose the characters that they cosplay in the first place, is because they're like, I love that character, I want to be that character.
Look at those hearts go, man. Look at those hearts go.
Yeah,
I feel like if you don't have that, it's like, why are you cosplaying the character? Because you want the attention? And then I feel like that disconnect is what causes a lot of problems. But I could go on about that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a separate topic.
But like, I mean, we're not saying like what's right and what's wrong here. This is, everyone cosplays for their own reasons, I think. So, I mean, like, if that's what you want to do, then like that's what you do. But then again, who are we to play cop, you know? And
Exactly.
we're reconnecting. This is kind of
On that note, someone said sometimes it could be a group cosplay and the person just got roped into doing that character.
that's
That
true.
happens.
Yeah, exactly.
too.
Which,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, you know, I myself have been in a part of a group cosplay where it's like, I mean, like, I cosplay from Naruto, but I haven't read Naruto. But that's because, like, my super close... I know. But my super close friends really love Naruto, and they were like, you would make a really good Sakura. And I was like, okay, like, I'll make the costume and cosplayer with you guys, like, this one time.
See, on that, I feel like because I don't have that connect, I would just buy the cosplay rather than take the time and effort.
You know
to
what?
Make
That's that. I'm really vibing with you on that. Go ahead.
Most of the
Well,
time,
I mean-
I would do that, but I had leftover fabric. That's why I was getting rid of fabric.
The thing is, I think
That's my reasoning.
Sorry, I feel like you're not talking.
No,
about,
it's okay.
like, I'm just finished.
I'm gonna
this
let you
stuff.
finish.
So I'm vibing with a thought on like, if you don't really like have an affinity for the character or relate with it, and you're doing it solely because your friends are asking you to do it.
Well, I
I
mean, like,
usually end up buying the costume just because like I don't like feel like I want to put time into it. But if it's a character I really like love and I really want to like
do them justice.
then I put time.
I
and
understand,
buy
but I feel like in this situation, I mean, like, this is a personal like situation, and I feel like for me, the love that I felt in this situation was like for my friends and for the fun that we were going to have together, like cosplaying as a trio. Instead of necessarily like a love for the character, I love that like that this allowed me to spend this time with them and be a part of this group like with them. I felt closer to them doing this because it was like they love Naruto, so doing it I felt like closer to them. So like that's
But
what it
couldn't
was
you
like.
just
for
buy
me.
the outfit too,
I
and then
could've.
still feel close to them?
Yeah, but I mean, I also just like making things.
For me, when I do group cosplays, I still gotta pick a character that I like. Otherwise, it's a no for me.
Okay, so
Then
it's
you're
either-
just
That's
like,
how I
no,
am
yeah.
most of the time,
That's
too. It's
true.
like-
Wouldn't want to waste money or time.
That's true.
That's the thing, yeah.
No, good point.
In
Good
like
point.
a general aspect.
But yeah, and Ed Matt 1128 says if you're not as attached to the character, you wouldn't have the motivation to work hard on the cosplay.
Yeah,
Vibing with that.
Which, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I
Snaps-
feel like
snaps for that.
people shouldn't pressure you in doing something you don't want to cosplay.
I think that's really important. Yeah.
Agreed. But back to the topic.
Yeah. Back to the topic.
Sonic, do you say you make or buy most of your cosplays?
It's like 50-50.
Yeah.
It depends on the difficulty. Like my Sora cosplay, I bought that. And I had my friend I commissioned my friend for the shoes, the big Sora shoes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those are different.
Yeah, shoes are its own. It's another
hard.
beast.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
whole other.
Yeah.
Those are tough.
Because I made my Anbu Kakashi and my Hokage Kakashi. Just sewing is hard.
Yeah.
And
difficult.
especially the turtle thing, the neck
Oh, yeah,
part.
the little, like,
I
collar
hate
thing.
making that. That took me hours because I'm not really a person that sews, but I can sew. Like I'm like very like everything has to be perfect. When I'm sewing, like everything has to be perfect.
Agreed.
Every single
I
line.
respect that.
Yeah.
So where do you, like, for those listening or tuning in right now, what's your go-to place to buy a cosplay then?
I normally go to Make Costume or Amazon.
No,
Like,
okay.
Amazon's really useful.
Amazon's
Yeah,
good.
Amazon has been stepping it up for sure. My
Yeah.
only thing with Amazon is same with Make Costume. Like, as a plus size person, Make Costume does not cater to that at all because it's all like more Asian sizing, which is very small. Yeah.
It's not fair.
And
It's
then,
not very inclusive. Like,
well, yeah.
I think it's.
And then same with like Amazon, they usually pull from Asian size, like China, overseas kind of thing. So plus the sizing charts on Amazon are very difficult and not accurate most
They've
of the
been
time.
getting better at it though.
Yeah, they're definitely improving.
There's another
But-
site called Cosplay Sky.
Oh, yeah,
I've used Cosplay
You've
Stat.
bought a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
just-
stuff.
I
What are
just
your
got it.
stuff? What do you buy your
Oh,
cosplay
well,
from?
also, and what do you think is the best site?
Oh,
Because
it depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shelby.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yeah, so I would probably say I'm like although I'm getting better, I'm like 70% buy or mod, like cosplays. But in my experience, like I said, Mick Costumes and Amazon are for the smaller. So I think Mick Costume is pretty affordable. But like I said, it's if you can fit the sizes, then great. And then I've used Cosplay Sky, which I just got a Full Metal Military one from them, which took like 4 months. Or
4 months?
4 months?
I need to order mine.
Yeah, to get
back to that uniform
here.
thing.
So that's the downside, I think, of Cosplay Sky is like their sizing and stuff is accurate, and they can do custom sizes too, and have a pretty good selection. But shipping is like $15, and then it takes forever.
Yeah.
Same with Easy Cosplay. I feel like Easy Cosplay has better quality than Cosplay Sky, but it is more like a little bit more expensive, and then you have that $20 shipping.
Oh wow!
But it is only like a month, I would say. Typically, is their turnaround.
There's also another one where you can buy cheap cosplay, but it's also kind of like a gamble. I think it's called AliExpress.
Oh
yeah, I've gotten some stuff
I got
from
my Haikyuu
AliExpress.
cosplay from
I've
there.
actually gotten everything I've ordered from AliExpress.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I do hear that some people don't get some things, so...
Yeah, I think AliExpress is probably the most affordable.
Yeah.
But the selection is way smaller.
Yeah, just include all the links to all the sites we're talking about in the description of YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
Now they have a guarantee refund if the seller doesn't ship your items in like 8 days.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's safe.
You just let them know, and then it'll cancel the transaction.
That's pretty nifty.
Yeah.
What would you say, so like what are the sites that you've bought your cosplays from?
I've done Easy Cosplay, Cosplay Sky, AliExpress, Mick Costumes, Amazon, and then one other cosplay commission site. I forget what it's called.
Do you feel like there's any that like you wouldn't recommend to people, or like?
Not necessarily. It's just you have to do your research and like really look through the descriptions. Oh, and I've done eBay too. That's something.
I just wanted to add this on. Like, if you're looking for like specialists, go to Etsy.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
Etsy
specialists there.
Yeah,
like.
I feel like that's where you can get like the real like
that's where
commission stuff. Yeah,
that's where
you're both at, honestly. Yeah.
And you can find some really sick keyblades and buster swords there too.
Yeah, you can also just do like full costume. Commissions.
Yeah, those are all like commissions.
But let it be known, Etsy is a little bit more pricey.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like I
but
feel
the quality you're getting.
Yeah,
is, like,
I feel like that's like it's
prime.
It's like from top specialists making those cosplays.
Exactly. And I feel like if you're heading to Etsy, it's like if you really want something that's like
different,
really good,
like
because they're
unique.
custom made, they're handmade. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you're heading over to Etsy, you should also be prepared to shell out money, because I'm sure you guys have had experiences where people are upset with the prices because they want it to be lower, but they don't understand that like because they're not buying something from like Cosplay Sky or Mick Costumes or AliExpress or whatever, that like it's not going to be that cheap. It's not going to be like
Well, the reason
$20.
why we like, at least for us in Etsy that are in the United States, the reason why we can't compete with the prices that Easy Cosplay and all of them do is because we don't live like in China.
Yeah, that's all
where
overseas.
people have they get paid way less. So we live in the United States, and unfortunately, cost of living here is a little bit more pricey. So in order to continue doing what we do, we need to charge a little bit more. It's not like we're trying to rip people off. It's just we need to live too. But that's one of the reasons.
It's the cost of your time.
Yeah. So
on that note too, I love you. Selena asked what the best time is to order your cosplay. So that's another thing you have to consider is the time it takes.
Yeah, shipping time and stuff.
Shipping
like that.
time, like with Etsy, I think it's more dependent, but you can also communicate
Etsy's
with the seller.
Oh my gosh,
I feel like you really have to communicate. Like if you commission something on Etsy, I think it's like up to you to really like take the initiative to communicate with like who you're doing the transaction with, and obviously like the person running the shop to communicate with their clients. I feel like that's super important.
So that's a plus with Etsy. But with like any other website, I would say if you like want to go to a con in like say March, I would say at least order it by January at the latest.
Yeah, I think it's 3 months. But
I think it's
I'd
pretty
say
long.
3 months is a good go-to.
Especially
unless
what?
it's Amazon. And they have 2 day shipping.
They have Prime.
And they have and then they have Prime shipping.
That's when Amazon becomes like super reliable, and it's good.
Yeah, my Sasuke cosplay, I got it from Amazon before I left to LA.
And it showed up at LA?
Yeah, no, it showed up like a day before I left to
Nice.
You gotta wait until like 12 o'clock until the mail comes.
LA. Hold on. As soon as my mail comes in, I'll drive straight to LA.
Yeah.
You're like waiting by the mailbox.
Yeah, that's what
Everything's all
I did.
packed.
Yeah.
So, I think Grapple Cosplay has a good question. What are your guys' opinions on buying patterns but still building them yourself, as far as making versus building goes?
I think this person's talking
They're-
about me.
Yeah, looking at you, Lawrence.
I think the reasons why I made patterns and kits is because I think that's a good way to start like getting your hands dirty and start making things. For example, that comes from my experience as a child making like Gundams, just making things and putting it together. You know, of course, I could buy a like action figure, RX-78, which is a Gundam made already, but there's something that goes into like just making it, yourself, like assembling it. I think patterns and kits are a good way to start off. I would say you can still say that you made it, because without you actually putting the effort into the fabric, foam, or whatever you're working with, you wouldn't have had the prop or the armor or whatever you're making. So I would say you can still say you make it. And those are good outlets for you to get your hands dirty and start making cosplay. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine, and you can use any material you want. You don't have to use the same material as everybody else. Buying patterns, yeah, you can use any material you want and make it how you want it.
Yeah.
My 2 cents on this is that I can understand, because I feel like you're looking at it in the context of like props and stuff like that, but I think it's important to consider that like if you're making like from a sewing perspective, like when you buy patterns from the store, that's like basically it's like the same thing.
It's the
like,
same as buying prop
thing.
patterns. Yeah.
So I don't think there's like any shame in like buying a pattern at all,
There's-
especially for
no.
clothing. And the thing is too is that like from the sewing perspective as well, when you make something so many times, eventually you're just gonna make your own personal pattern of it anyways, because it's like instead of wasting the time figuring out something again and again, like I feel like a lot of people tend towards like making their own templates so that they just draw out the pattern that they know they're going to use for like a sleeve and then just do that. So I feel like going towards patterns is sort of like a natural way to go that saves you time on that process.
Because
so I don't think there's any shame.
you're given like a blueprint, and so
Exactly.
you know where to like, okay, so this is how they make a sleeve, or this is how they make pants.
Yeah.
So that these pants fit me a little bit loose here, so if I was to do it, I'd tweak it here. So I think that's why patterns and kits and stuff are like really nice.
Yeah, I think it's super useful. And like what you said, the assembly and stuff like that, I think is definitely... There's always, I feel like, the finishing touches that really make that costume yours. Like, if you buy a kit, sure, like, someone else might have cut it out, but you're the one that does, all the gluing and assembly and the painting.
Yeah, you're still putting
And I feel like the
your
painting
heart
is,
and
like-
skill into it.
Exactly, and I feel like if you were to buy, I don't know, like, I don't know if there's, like, a cosplay equivalent, but it's like if you buy, like, a base of a costume or whatever, like, there's still modifications that you can make, like with, like, again, your Kirito cosplay, how you remade the armor. There's, little things like that.
Or
that
even
you can
just
always-
like taking it in or whatnot to make it fit better, like on you personally.
Yeah. But this is the whole point, is like, there's no shame. Like, if you had someone commission it for you, you just be like, yeah, I had someone make this for me. There's no shame in being like, I bought this,
Yeah, I
Or
think
like-
that's how people progress too and learn faster.
Oh, and then I wanted to add too on the buying and making things. Like, there's certain things, like for me, like I'm used to the traditional sense of making everything, because I come from a competitive cosplay scene. So like boots, have to be made, pants, I make as much as you can, because that's what you get judged on. So I think coming from there to now, because I'm just way busier now, I feel like there's definitely value in finding other people who are special, like who can do like wig styling better than I can. Like, for example, it took me forever to style my cloud wig, but for him, he has the experience, the tools, so it would take him like half the time to do it. So for example, there would be Steph can sew way better than I can. So if I was to sew, it would take me like twice as long, just because I don't know what I'm doing. So there's gonna be a lot of like fidgeting and stuff. But prop making, Steph can do prop making too, but it would just take her twice as long because she doesn't know what she's doing, So I think it's good to like network and talk with people and like get together and like work together on things and like specialize. And
Yeah,
the
that's
analogy, go ahead.
Oh, I was thinking that's where like the community is like so great, is because you can connect with everyone and kind of get
And,
tips or even like
Mm-hmm.
get together and have them help you with something, and like in exchange for like, you know, you make my prop and I'll sew your
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
pants.
Because sometimes like you like sewing better than like making armor or stuff, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'll be like, oh, I don't like sewing. Go ahead, you do that
Yeah.
sewing, you know?
Let's team up.
Like you like
Yeah.
this wig styling. It's like go ahead and you do your wig styling, you know, like. So I think it's really cool to like utilize that and like find a team. So it's cool, and I think it makes the sport not so lonely,
Yeah.
and it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's also like no shame if you like doing everything yourself as well. But I mean,
There's no
one
shame.
of my absolute favorite things about cosplay is like the community aspect, and you know, like going back to our previous podcast where we would talk about like character claiming and stuff like that. I think that's like, you know, when you see someone else wearing the same cosplay as you, I think that's something that's really fun, is like comparing how you both tackled the same character, seeing
Yeah.
how you built like the same thing
And
like
learning
your own
from each other,
interpretations.
yeah.
Exactly. Like, I think that's really cool, sharing that knowledge and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's how like cosplay.
Yeah.
Like how I see this is like when you play online games, adventure games, everyone has like different specialties, like a warrior, archer, a mage, and a thief, and that's like what everyone is.
Yeah.
Everyone has different specialties. I'm a wig, he's an armor, you're seamstress. Is that how you pronounce
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And you're a little
She's a
everything.
I'm a
Developing.
She can permeate.
She's like,
to
it's like
anything
it's like
you
a
want.
novice. Yeah.
I haven't picked a
Yeah.
class yet.
Yeah.
Like, she's like
That's
the
like what it
villager
is.
class. Like you need to invest in because you never know what she can
Yeah,
like.
you haven't
Yeah.
like
It's like
dumped
Fire
your
Emblem.
stats. in
Yeah.
specific
And then we have
categories.
photographers and videographers.
Yeah,
and
and
others.
So
It-
many. Yeah.
I think it's really cool.
Jamie has another good question that I think I can branch off of, but what should someone say if they post a picture if they bought the costume? Or like what if they commissioned a certain piece?
Well, she said, should someone say?
Oh yeah, should someone say
I think
if they bought
It's
it?
great to credit people.
I think it's important to credit people. I feel
Yeah.
like, personally, I feel like it's important to credit work when people have, you know, someone took the time and effort to put together what you're wearing.
Yeah.
And I feel like just as you would credit, or you should, hopefully, you know, you are crediting your photographers, you should credit the people that helped, you know, create certain aspects of
do
like
your
your
wigs
costume.
or-
Yeah, you do your wigs, or like if someone like does your makeup or like does armor parts. That's why like, so like I know that like I don't think I did. I should have credited you for like my elbow piece for like Tifa, for
Oh,
example.
I was waiting for the credit for so long.
But I think it's like important as much as possible, you know, like if you can remember to credit people who help you.
I want to
Yeah.
add, like, for me personally, I don't like care if people credit me. Like, I'm grateful for the people that do credit me.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I've sold over like 2,000 patterns, but like I've only been tagged like 100 times. So there's like 1,000. There's like over 1,000 people that didn't tag me. But I understand the territory that we're in, and I don't police people. So I'm just like, if you want to, like, because you know that you want to and you feel grateful, then I love it. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm never bitter that that pattern that's mine, you know, kind of
Yeah.
thing. I'm just kind of like, well,
Yeah.
Yeah, if I felt like that too, if I was like salty, people didn't credit me, I would have
Right.
stopped doing what I was doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's
I think
important
that's the
too.
thing,
Because it's like, I feel like you should, but a lot of people don't. But I also feel like, you know, like what you guys say.
Yeah, I enjoy what I'm doing, so
That's important, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, you
I
understand.
keep doing it.
Yeah, and you understand that not everyone's going to do it. I think
Yeah.
that's like having that mindset and then going into the territory of making things for other people. Having that will like keep you going because it doesn't
Yeah.
deter you. Because if you're doing it only for the credibility, then not getting credit will hurt you. Yeah,
That's true. That's very true.
True. I think if you like commission something or you know the person who made it, then you should definitely credit them. But if you just like bought it off Amazon, like I don't think you should say costume by Amazon or like in that sense. I think it's.
I do it just because people
yeah.
like,
I feel like
hey, that's really cool, you know.
yeah.
That's
Where
just-
did you get it?
yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
saves time actually when I put where I bought it, like where I got
Yeah.
I
it.
think, you know, it's like personal preference, I guess, but it's like, I mean, my personal opinion is that I feel like it's good to say. And I mean, like, a lot of it for me just kind of stems, I feel like a lot of it is just kind of like what's the word? Integrity, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's transparency as well with like supporters and stuff like that. I feel like it's important for people to know that like because I know there's a lot of big name people that don't make their own costumes, but they don't say anything
No,
about
I'm just
it.
kidding.
I mean, like, I'm not gonna name any names, but
Lawrence
you know,
Owen. No,
like,
okay.
you know, that, like, and I feel like a lot of people are under this stigma as well that, like, in order to be big, you have to be a crafter, and I feel like that's,
Not necessarily.
like,
that's a topic for later.
yeah, and I feel like that hurts a lot of people, and I feel like it's important for people to realize that, like, not everyone can always, like, 100%, like, craft
Make everything.
all the time, and I feel like that's why crediting things like Amazon and stuff like that can be good, because then it lets people, like, know, like, oh, yeah, like, this
They're
might be-
human too.
I think it helps a lot too.
Exactly,
Like, it helps a
like,
lot to
yeah.
credit
Yeah,
because
it helps other business too, like where I buy my wigs. I credit Epic Cosplay Wigs and Arta Wigs
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
stuff like
and I think
that.
it's really good because, like, I think just being honest in general is gonna, like, take you so far in life.
Yeah.
But in a way, like, when, for example, you credit Epic and
Arta Wigs.
like, have they, like, reached out to you or anything?
I got some of my stuff featured on Epic Cosplay Wigs.
See, and that's cool
And-
because, like, that helps, like, him grow his marketing. I do that, and they share my stuff, and that's how my stuff grows.
I feel like it's also important that, like, while I say it's really good, I also recognize that I don't do it as much, and I also feel, I don't do it as much as I feel like I should. I feel like it's a good habit to get into, and I also feel like, you know, where do you draw the line? I mean, like, you would credit, like, Epic and stuff like that because they are cosplay specialty, but it's, like,
If you have a, like, list of, you know,
yeah,
20
where it's, like,
different
red fabric got
vendors,
from Joann's,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
blue fabric got from, like, Mood Fabrics. I feel like it's, like, you know, where would you necessarily draw, like, the line? And so, because it's, like, you could say, like, costume made by me, but then it's, like, specific parts, like, would you list them? But, I mean, like, I feel like
think
it
it
depends.
depends.
Because it's, like,
I
would
feel
you,
like
I, you know, like, I don't always list, like, the contacts that I
Yeah.
use, for example, in, like, my photos.
I mean, if you're making something like a big project like that, you should just like make a blog and then have a link.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like
that.
a story feature on your Instagram, like a
Yeah,
highlight.
detail
There we
by
go.
detail.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, like, when it comes down to fabric, if it's, like, a really bomb, like, super good fabric, then I'd take a picture of story and be like, this is where I get, like, you've done that. You're like, this is the, like, best fabric, like, I've seen, and you, like, you know, you talk it up. But if it's just, you know, the general red vinyl at Joann's,
Yeah.
you know, you
Because, you know, like, a lot of people, too, will also, like, ask in the comments, like, hey, where'd you get this? Because some people also just don't read.
Yeah.
Goes with the territory.
that's good. I don't really read sometimes too, so I respond to them. I was like,
Well, do you guys have any final thoughts on pros and cons of making and buying?
I want to. Can I add this? I think back to the
no, you
topic.
Sorry.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't need your permission.
Wow.
Go.
No, for his live
The end
podcast.
button.
Yeah, I just try to be
End the
polite.
podcast.
I wanted to end on the note of, like, cosplaying. Like, you were saying that cosplay is for everyone, and I think it is. Not I think it is for everyone, but I think the thing is, like, making everything from by yourself is completely doable, and it is cool, and it is, like, a bragging right kind of thing. And I think that's why a lot of people have, like, you know, bravado when they say, like, I made everything myself, you know. But in a way, I think there's value in working with other people too. Yeah.
I guess as a whole, pros and cons of making and buying. I feel like the only cons that really come out of each side are just your money and time and, like, how much you're willing to dedicate and, like, personal pride, I
Yeah.
guess.
It depends really on, like, cosplay is for yourself. You cosplay for
Exactly.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always gonna feel 100% better when I make everything myself.
Yeah.
But there's just there's a line where I want to buy cosplay too.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we
And
said at the
there's
beginning.
no right way to go about it. You
There's
can
no
make
right
it,
way.
you can
definitely.
buy it, like,
yeah. There's
it's all
no right or wrong.
Yeah.
personal preference. As long as you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And obviously, like, you don't judge other people if they, you know,
That
are
is so
doing
important.
something different from
Yeah.
you. You know, everyone has their own reasons. So.
Right. You don't build respect by putting people down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Well, I think we will call that it on the podcast.
Really cool. Thank you guys for staying in, tuning in. You guys have been consistently over 10 people.
Yes. Thanks for joining
Thanks
us on
for
the
those
live.
hearts.
So we will talk again soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.